Hello and welcome to Viewpoints, Dominion DMS's video podcast series where we highlight our vendor partners. I'm Sharon Kitzman, president of Dominion DMS, and we have a big treat for you today because I'm speaking to Brendan Hurley. He is the co-owner and manager of Astute RM. And unlike many of the industry influencers that I interview on these podcasts, Brendan is not only a technologist, but he's also an automotive enthusiast. And best of all, he's been a dealership owner and operator since the 1980s. So I expect an entirely different perspective on our industry and what makes dealers tick during our discussion today. Brendan, welcome.
Well, thank you, Sharon, and I appreciate the invite and looking forward to an interesting conversation. Many of the dealerships that I deal with, the dealer principals are quite a bit younger than me, so that makes for interesting conversations. So
that's okay. I think on leap year day, you can like cut your age into a quarter or something and still be okay. So
great idea.
So your website says that Astute RM was born out of decades of CRM programming experience, but also a CRM that is offering a redesign in the modern era. Your slogan is not just a CRM, Astute Relationship Management. So Brendan, maybe you could tell the dealers listening to us today a little bit more about Astute RM and what makes it more modern than other CRM offerings in our industry.
Well, we have a little bit of an unfair advantage there because Astute is a newer product than the legacy guys that are out there for the most part. And it's not my first CRM or my first goat roping for that matter. I've been in the CRM business since back in the 80s when Rolodex cards were, high tech. So I think to answer your question about what's different, a lot of what's different is driven by the experiences that I've had with my dealerships and my employees over the years, and understanding the struggles and the bumps in the road and the twists and turns from a perspective of everybody in the store. And we're not just CRM because we focus on the service drive, we focus on the administrative end, we focus on the entire dealership relationship. And that's why I'm so excited about the integration that we have with View. Our core mission is View. We think that, and our program shows it, that everything has to be super visible. And we have one interface. We kind of call it the one-stop spot, actually. But it's the My Customers module within Astute, which gives users full visibility of the customer and the relationship with the customer in one screen. And it also is a very familiar looking screen because it's much like a messaging app, where you've got the customers on the left side, and then you've got the interactivity that's happening live with that customer on the right side of the screen. Plus, depending on your user rights, you have more visibility. And, I think that's something that you all do very well and something that we mimic. And that is to make sure that the contextual view of the information is relevant to the person who's looking at it. We don't like screen pollution. We like to be as minimalistic as we possibly can. So we use hovers a lot to deal with that. Yes, okay. You may need the information that's underlying what you're looking at some point, but you don't necessarily need it at every point. So that's a difference. And we allow the customer to log into Astute, which is a totally different concept from anybody else. And it allows them, I think that's probably the single biggest thing we do differently. It allows the customer to determine the relationship type that you have with them. How do they want to be communicated with? What's their personal information? What are their likes and dislikes? And we even build a phantom inventory list based on those likes. If something that they're looking for isn't in stock, we now have that phantom inventory that we can watch the service driveway. We can watch appraisals, and boom, Helen McDonald is looking for a 2017 Town and Country. So that hit is right there because we've asked the customer to update their own preferences in Astute. So that's different. And also being
Yeah.
able to reach out to the customer, whether you're a service advisor, whether you're somebody in administration, and requesting a document from the customer, sends a link to their cell phone, they take a picture of the document, and boom, it's back in Astute. So those are big differences.
Yeah, I saw on your website that you use a QR code to allow a salesperson to move between a PC and a mobile device as well,
Sure.
so that they can keep the consumer top of mind no matter whether they're walking the lot
And
or.
further than that, it even allows the consumer to scan a QR code so they can log in and update their
Okay.
credit information or whatever it is that they need to do while they're standing there in the showroom. They can scan that QR code, or alternatively, if they're not in your showroom, you can send them a link. And that works for credit apps, it works for preferences, it works for customer profile areas, all of that. So a little different. That's a
I
modern
think
feature too. So
I think they're not only modern features, but I think they're initiated by somebody who has lived in a dealership versus being just a technologist in an
yeah,
industry. So
yeah,
congratulations to you. You know, I joked earlier about our ages and how we could cut them in half today. It is February 29th and it is leap year.
yeah.
But it's amazing to think that just earlier this month, we started the first 3 days of this month in our industry's kind of biggest event, at least in the US, at the NADA convention in Las Vegas. And I trust your year is off to a great start. It's always a little bit of a boost when NADA happens so early in the calendar year for all of us to generate additional leads and awareness. The Dominion DMS booth, I was thinking about this when I was preparing for our conversation, was right next to Drive Centric, another CRM in our industry that's also created by a dealer, I think, from the Lou Fuse Group in St. Louis. But what is different about being a dealer-led software solution like Astute RM that another dealer should take notice of?
Well, that's a great question. And my answer to that would be when you understand the pain that your employees go through and you understand the pain that the customers go through dealing with your employees, and you can take that rough road and even it out, make the employee more efficient, make the relationship that the customer has with you more efficient, and most importantly, make everything more visible. I saw, for instance, in your DMS platform, you've got a very sophisticated search engine. We do too. So if a salesperson can't necessarily even remember the customer's name, but they know that they had an AOL email address, we can let that salesperson put in at AOL in the search engine, and it will pull up all of the records that he or she has had that have an AOL email address. Or if he put in a note that the customer likes to raise Huskies, and he types in, or she types in Huskies, it's going to pull up all the records with Huskies or anything like that. I think those facilitations where you don't have a customer or an employee, a service advisor, an administrative person or whatever gets stuck, that's huge.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is very, very important is to understand, with these times being a little bit tougher than they were, grosses being down and so forth, the efficiency of the operation. And also you've got fewer dealership employees now doing more. So if you're asking them to do more, you better give them the tools so that that's easy for them to do.
Right.
Case in point, if you are a salesperson at a store that has a dominance in the service department of customers who didn't buy from you, which is very common in the fringe metros. The customer might buy the store in Chicago, but the outlying store that may not have been competitive with the bigger boy is now servicing that car. So you have to have a relationship with those, and the percentages sometimes are as high as 70% of the cars you service you didn't sell. So that's a phantom inventory like we talked about.
Yeah.
And it's also a great opportunity to say, hey, listen, you love our service department, so let's have a relationship with you across the board in sales too. That I think is a big opportunity area. And anything you can do to make the employee more efficient, where their job is easier to do. You can't be angry at them if you give them a tool that that doesn't shoot straight. You've got to give them the right tool, and that's what we do.
Well, those sound all like experiences that you've had personally, asking a salesperson for a prospect's name and them saying, well, I don't remember. I talked to
Right.
8 prospects today, but I do remember that it had an AOL address and that was unique. And so that's a great example of you having been in those shoes and trying to optimize your solution to be able to address them.
Oh, yeah.
I did do some digging on your website, and I love the idea, and it surprised me a little bit as a technology provider myself, of you saying that we're gonna embrace the dealer's existing workflow and not try and reinvent the wheel. I think so many software providers try to cookie cutter their implementation into a dealership and try to kind of force their process. It's easier for the provider, but I'm assuming if the dealer wants to make change, wants to embrace maybe an OEM program or something like that, that during the implementation of Astute RM, your services team will make recommendations or suggestions if asked. Is that?
Oh, no question. And as you know, every dealership in the country is different from every other dealership. There's no mold, or if there is a mold, it was broken a long time ago. So,
well, I do think sometimes the manufacturers try to create a mold, right? We want you to follow this process in sales or service, but you're right. Whether it's the facility or the personnel or the type of consumer on the other side of the interaction, every dealer needs to flex a bit.
Yeah. Well, to that end, I think that the other thing that's happened is, we mentioned it a minute ago, less people in a dealership doing more. So we have to have, and we do have the flexibility to where if you have teams or you have salespeople doing the bulk of what the F&I manager used to do, or salespeople doing the bulk of what the sales manager used to do, you have to have the flexibility in your rights area to let them do that. I think the other thing too, not sure if you've seen this trend, but we see dealerships wanting to have their own branded website now, in addition to the OEM website that they're obliged to have. So we have the facility where they can manage their own website right within Astute, editing the vehicle information, uploading pictures, all that right in the interface. And if they have any interactivity from their dealer branded website, not the OEM site, mind you, but from their dealer branded website, for instance, if a customer wants to chat with you, that chat is happening inside Astute. Same thing if they submit a form, credit app or whatever it is, or an appraisal request, it's right inside Astute. So there's no integration there. There's actually just an implementation. That's a big thing. And I think more and more of that's happening.
Yeah, excellent. It sounds like a really exciting system. So, Brendan, as a DMS provider, right, we provide, the core applications for a dealer to run their business. They're not always sexy parts of the business, right? Accounting, payroll, those types of things, but they're absolutely necessary for the dealer to be able to run the business as well as communicate with their manufacturer. However, every day it seems like a big and slightly bigger part of our business is becoming a secure integration partner to all the wonderful solutions like Astute RM that are out in the industry. For the dealers listening who are considering Astute RM as a new solution for themselves, can you give us a little bit of a taste of the type of integration that they would experience with Dominion DMS?
Absolutely. Let's talk about a service advisor for one, because generally the service advisor is not in the CRM system with the legacy guys, at least. So the frustration they have sometimes communicating with a customer, and they're doing it on their own cell phones, which is bad to begin with, because the dealership doesn't have an audit of the communication structure that you've had with that customer. So in Astute, the service advisor logs in and can go back to the car and send a video to the customer right out of Astute, showing some issue that's with the car or showing the nail in the tire, or conversely, the service advisor can send a request to the customer for documents. So if they've got a GE service contract or some brand that the dealership didn't sell, they can take a picture of that and it comes right back into the Astute record. So that's an example. Similarly, they can text and they can call and they can email with the customer directly inside the Astute platform. And Jason, who's done a great job, by the way, at your company, integrating with David Gross, our lead integrator, was surprised at how much we do in the service area. Now, the other thing with relationships is we have vendor tracking and we have employee tracking as a part of our relationship. Again, that's why it's not called CRM, it's called RM. So that relationship that you have with your employee, you certainly should know your employees as well as, at least not better than your customers. And it's sad if you don't know the basics, their partners, their spouse, their hobbies, the things they like or whatever. All of that's in the Astute employee record. And it gives HR a step above and beyond. Same thing with your vendors. You can have documents associated to your vendor accounts, whether it's a contractual agreement about pricing, whether it's a workman's comp policy, whether it's just the contact information, so you don't have to fumble around in a desk drawer looking for a card. You know, it's how last century is that? So, and again, the administrative end from the office standpoint, you've got states where you've got the salespeople have to have a license to sell cars. All of that's contained in the employee record inside Astute, as well as manager evaluation of that employee and any other documents like FTC compliance agreements, all of those things. Nobody else is doing that, Sharon, nobody.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a unique set of features and a good
That's
reason for your DMS providers to team up with us, beneficial to everybody in the store, not just your traditional CRM users.
CRM users. Great. You know, we mentioned NADA earlier, but it feels like maybe 2024 is starting a little bit differently for dealers. A little bit more margin pressure. It feels like 2023 was all about EVs, and now some manufacturers are starting to kind of walk back some of those strategies. Probably not completely, but maybe a little less aggressively than they were last year. So as you and the rest of your team at Astute RM kind of get around the leadership table on a regular basis and talk about the industry, are there things that you're talking about that will help dealers navigate these uncertain times?
Yes, we have three broad categories for that, Sharon, really. One is how do you cast a wider net so you can catch more fish? And that goes back to what we were talking about with the tremendous inventory of vehicles. Just because you don't own them doesn't mean you can't buy them and sell them. So the tremendous phantom inventory of service vehicles that you have in your store. Now, matching everything together is what we do exceptionally well in Astute. So like I said earlier, if you appraise a vehicle and you've got somebody else looking for that vehicle, and we put year ranges in there and notes and all that, and the managers have high visibility of that wish list, for instance, if they go to the auction. But connecting the dots between your service department and your sales department, I think, is a huge deal, and it expands that that broadly cast net even further. Another thing we're doing, the second part we're doing, leveraging modern technology. I know everybody talks about AI. I like actual intelligence much as I do artificial intelligence, because if you don't have actual intelligence, AI is no good to you. But a classic example, we have a sentiment analysis in voice calls if the dealer chooses to have that set up in Astute. And that sentiment analysis will alert you if somebody's pissed off or whatever. And it's AI. So is it awfully inaccurate or is it awfully intelligent? Sometimes there's a blurred line there. But we do that too to establish, as a dealership's database builds over time, if we see a pattern, again, using AI, that somebody who owns a Ford Focus is likely to want to buy this in your store, or somebody who has a Subaru whatever is likely to buy whatever. And we tap into databases to establish that. Again, it's not perfect, but it's growing. And there are a couple of other little doohickey clickies in there too. A third thing we're doing to protect the dealership overall is we have a nice integration now with Adobe Cloud. And that integration allows you to save, I mean, they used to call them electronic deal jackets. You can call it whatever you like, but it gives the dealership confidence that everything that they've interacted with the customer can be signed electronically, and it's certified via Adobe Cloud. And if ever they leave us, which God knows we hope they don't, but at least they have all of those documents in an area, and we have a full 100% data export facility built into Astute. So we know that data belongs to the dealer. But I think the document management aspect of this, case in point, you're going through an audit, a rebate audit, incentive audits. We hate them. I hated them. Every dealer hates them. But you've got all of those steps, if you want to call them that, in the Astute record that show you, is it a military leave and earnings statement? Is it proof of ownership of a Ford vehicle if you're selling a Mopar or a Stellantis product? Or is it something else like that? Is it the retail incentive configurator? You save all of that inside the Astute record. And if you have the Adobe Cloud plugin, which I think it's $169 a year, it's not expensive, you have all of that in the cloud associated with the correct customer number. So those are the things that I think are the big three. And you know, we have something else we talk about too in the program, and that's the motivating, mentoring, and management of your employees, again, through the employee relationship management aspect in the program.
I love the document concept, and I love that you are a believer that it's not just the dealer's data, but it's also the dealer's documents. I do think there are businesses out there that still hold documents hostage as a way to try to retain business.
And still having employees use personal phones to make text messages to customers. Oh my God, that's so dangerous.
It's very dangerous from a compliance perspective, but also it's lost information for the dealer for sure. Now I saw on the website that dealers can contact you directly, and that website is www.astute-rm.com. If you didn't catch that, you can also just go to the Dominion DMS website, to our partners page, and search for Astute, and they'll come up and it'll link you back to their website. But what should dealers expect from that online contact form? Will someone contact them for a demo, and what's kind of the timeline commitment that they should be waiting on?
Well, we're instant motors with that, because we all pick
up. As a CRM or an RM provider, you're eating your own dog food, right?
Absolutely. Well, something I believe in too, and somebody at your firm, I think it may have been Shannon, mentioned it to me. Anytime you do a demo with a dealer, you've got to go through a process and make sure that you're covering what's important to them first and foremost. So I don't believe in doing a blind demo without having a good conversation about what's important, because sometimes the demo can take 20 minutes if you don't ask that question instead of 10. And I know as a dealer myself, sometimes 10 minutes is like an hour. It's a long time. So if you can compress things down, you know, I even have done videos for a dealer to say, look, you know, in fact, I just did one this morning where I just send the dealer a video and say, this is what we were talking about, and this is how it works in Astute. And I'm more than happy to do that. I did 6 of them last week. And you know, it's not a polished production, not like you guys do. It's more just about a direct video message to a dealer using a screen share technology. We use Zoom Clips, works very well. And of course, we can capture it on local machines, and we just send that video out and it works. Kind of low tech, but you know, it works. Also built into our program, which I think is a really important feature. We've got inter-employee messaging built right in, as well as one click to talk to us built into the program, as well as one click to do a Zoom connection with us built into the program. Wow. And then in addition to that, we have We have the ability to allow a user to do an intercom with us or to page us. So that's all built into the application, along with videos that are contextual to where you are in the program. You hit the question mark and boom, you get a video by yours truly for the most part, and some others.
Well, that's a great lead in. I was going to ask you about the implementation process of your solution as well as support. So it sounds like dealers, once implemented, have a number of different ways that they can contact your business if they have a question. But what does the implementation look like? Is it a long process? Is there a data conversion that happens?
It's a fairly straightforward process, but it's not akin to a root canal. A lot of dealers have had that root canal experience switching CRMs in the past, and there's really no reason for it. And one of the things that's most important is we set the users of the store up in a sandbox before we ever even implement. So they're already accustomed to the interface, and they can go in there and put Mickey Mouse as a customer or whoever they want to put in there as a customer and see how the program works. And then we also have the ability, because things are so different in the dealerships, to have the right profile for that particular user type. So in that sandbox environment, we're having conversations with the dealership personnel. And Jo Havey, for instance, who's one of my employees, she's marvelous because she's been a BDC manager, she's been a sales manager, she's been a salesperson, she's worked for a DMS and for a CRM provider. Don't steal her from me. So she knows how to ask the right questions too. So when we do that sandbox setup for the individuals at the store, which is usually weeks before we do a kickoff, we're in good shape. And pulling in data, to be honest, it depends on the DMS. You all are great. And we had no roadblocks. We had no impediments. We didn't have, to do it 15 times because we can only get a block of data equal to X. So you all have really thought that out. And I'm not blowing smoke at you. I'm just telling you that we've had a lot of experience with other DMS providers that have been rocky roads. So that's a big deal in implementation. And I think also you have to be realistic about the data that you have in your system that's over 90 days old for prospects. I'm not talking about sold cars because we get that from your DMS.
Right.
How big of an opportunity are they really? So sometimes dealers lose a lot more sleep about the 97 or 120 or 240 day old prospect than they do about the fresh customer who's in your service department 15 days ago that spent $1,642 that probably should trade out of that car. That's the more important stuff. So we focus on what's important.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like a good, easy process. And I think that's the benefit of having a more modern solution, right? You have a cleaner user interface and it's much simpler and easier for a new user to understand and how to navigate
No question.
the system as well. So Brendan, I close all of my podcasts by asking the same question. And I think this one might be tough for you. You've been in the industry and you've worn so many different hats in the industry, including being a dealer, as part of that hat. But do you have a car story? Just one, because you probably have many. Do you have a car story that you'd like to share?
Not rude or crude, something suitable. A couple that come to mind. One, we had at my store in DeLand, we had a customer in a minivan that was a hearse come in, and there was a passenger on board heading to a funeral, and there was an issue with the vehicle. We put it up on the lift, and we had a power failure. Oh my God! Yeah, Florida flicker and flash went out on us, and the person was late for their own funeral. So that was not a good story. I had another incident in the store in Merritt Island, actually, the first store that I worked in many years ago in the 80s. I was a sales manager there before becoming a partner. And this customer was referred to me, super nice couple, 3 kids, 1 infant. They came in all excited about the minivan. This was all the rage back then, the magic van. And we were Chrysler Plymouth, so they were looking at the Plymouth Voyager.
Sure.
I took them on the test drive. They love the vehicle. We get back to the store. They sit in the vehicle for a while, and I go get the salesperson and say, "Hey, look, they're ready to rock and roll. This is their trade here." And they love the built-in child seat, and they were just oohing and awing about the vehicle. So they're sitting there enjoying it for a few minutes. I go back into the store. I get the salesperson to get ready for them, and they come back in, do a couple of things, and then they take off. I think they had a Toyota Corolla or something. They took off in their Toyota Corolla. So the salesman goes out to bring the Voyager back to the shop, and the baby is still in the car seat. They forgot the baby. Unbelievable. So he's sitting there oohing and awing with the baby. The baby was sound asleep, obviously, when they left. But yeah, they forgot the baby.
How long did it take them to remember
not even 10 minutes, and they come back in a panic, and the baby's perfectly happy and enjoying the company of I think it was Scott. Scott was the salesperson. Yeah. So yeah, I'm like, wow.
Wow. So two experiences where you had an unsuspected I guess passenger
yeah.
in those two cars. Those are great. I'm glad they came back. I'm very glad they came back.
Yeah, and they bought probably 15 vehicles from me. They followed me from when I became a partner in that store, and then sold out and bought another store. They followed me from Brevard County to Marion County, and from Marion County to Volusia County. Great customers. I still know them, and I think that's the big thing about the business. It's still a people business over everything else. No question.
Yes. Well, it has been a treat hearing about your product, about your business, and how you took those dealer experiences and really strove to streamline the processes and the efficiency gains for the dealers based on all your experiences, and certainly your most recent stories about your cars were fascinating as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that the dealers out there listening to this podcast learned a little bit more about Astute RM and the integration back to Dominion DMS. And I just want to thank you for your time today. And I'm sure dealers will enjoy your stories as well.
Well, there's many more where that came from. Thank you, Sharon. It's great to catch up with you, and you've got an awesome team, and we've enjoyed working with you and enjoying going forward.
Thank you.